Hello, everybody. I'm sorry for all the adjustments there. Everything's backwards as far as as far as me trying to adjust things. I was trying to adjust my shirt so you couldn't see my T-shirt, but it's just not working. I don't know. I can't figure this out. There we go. Okay, got it. Hello, everybody. Scott, Little Lone Prepper, Rebecca, Cats and Prepping, Little Lone Prepper. Let me say, we said that. Muskoka Oma. Wow, look at the great people here already this evening. So let me share something that happened last night. And Utah Mike, good evening. Good to see you. Butch Graves, Pete, Triple G Farms, great to see you as well. Phaeoxerus, wow. Holly Ivans. Gosh, all these great people. So anyhow, about midnight last night, I don't know why, I had this premonition. So I normally keep my pew up high, because just in case the grandkids came by or anything else. And since they moved to New Jersey, I've never moved it down lower. And so I decided, I had this really strange premonition. I don't know why. I moved my thing from up on top of the thing cabinet down to the nightstand next to my bed. Then about midnight last night, there was somebody just beating on the door like you would not believe. Didn't ring the doorbell, they were beating on the door. Well, they set off the Ring camera, of course, and all the outside lights turned on and everything else. And so we're trying to find out what it is. Look through the camera, and there's this guy standing at the door, just beating on the door. And Helen yelled through the door, "What do you want?" And he says, "Did you lose a dog? We've got a dog here." And so the guy who was standing at the door didn't have the dog. But later we found out that the guy who was standing down at the end of the driveway had the dog, because we have two different cameras. We can kind of watch that perspective. But Helen had, this is really abnormal. Helen heard it and woke me up instead of the other way around. Usually I'm the one who wakes up and tells her. But then again, I had taken a pill for my back that's been causing me some extreme problems here recently. And as a matter of fact, I'm adjusting right now because of it. But anyhow, so I answered the door basically with the pew and didn't open the door or anything else. And I strongly advise you the same thing. And anyhow, later they just went away. Helen put it on next door. And we found out that it has been happening throughout the neighborhood, that they're using different tactics to try to get in to older people's homes. And so evidently they're watching and seeing who's older, and then using that as a tactic to get into their home and rob them of whatever they have. So don't know for sure that was, what their intention or anything else, but gosh, at midnight, how many people are roaming the streets, banging on people's doors, trying to get in to tell them they've lost a dog. Me, I would take the dog home, post something on the neighborhood group on Facebook or something like that, and let it go. But this case we didn't. Okay, got a new sticker. Let me see right here, and this is "I voted early" sticker. So yes, I voted early. I would strongly encourage you to do the same. Get out there and make sure your vote counts. All kinds of stories about the possibility of something happening, because typically one party votes early, and the other party votes primarily on election day. And so they're saying that there could be a lot of poll turmoil on election day. And so if you're kind of smart, well, I'm not going to say kind of smart. That's not the right thing to say. If you want to avoid the possibility of poll turmoil happening on the day when the majority of one party votes, I would say vote early and get that out of the way. Hello, Shenanigans. Welcome. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Teresa Buchanan, welcome. Anybody else? Wow. Yeah, Theoxera says decent people take the dog home until a decent hour and post it on social media or something like that and say, here's a lost animal. That's what I would have done as well. But, we learn. And so anyhow, we were very happy we didn't open the door. I was very happy that I had moved my thing, and it was immediately available so that I can answer the door with it in hand. And we never did, of course, open the door. But, that's just in case, just in case. So, be aware that that kind of stuff is happening. Golly, the world is in turmoil. Iran, Israel, Ukraine, Russia, North Korea now has troops fighting on behalf of Russia in Europe. They're threatening South Korea. We've got China threatening Taiwan. Saudi Arabia has joined the side of Iran against Israel. The dollar's declining. BRICS is looking for a new monetary system to replace the dollar as the global reserve or backup. Gold and silver at all-time highs. Unbelievable. So, there's a possibility of several different things happening, and to include the collapse of the dollar, shortages of food, just all kinds of things. Civil unrest as a result of the elections. Of course, all these different antagonists who are out there militarily trying to do things, and it's a crazy world. What I would say is the best thing we can do is pray. Speaking of which, I did an hour's worth of teaching on Sunday. I've got 2 hours coming up this Sunday. So say your prayers for me that I do things correctly, and gosh, I've got 2 Bible studies going on at the same time. Let me tell you, my life is confusing right now. We've got 2 Bible studies going on at the same time. One of them is strictly on the book of Revelation. The other one, we're doing the Advent story. And then after that, we're going to go, that group's going into the book of Revelation. So I've got 2 different Bible studies I'm going to, that eventually are going to be both of them on the book of Revelation. We'll see how that goes. Oh no, say prayers for Shenanigans' husband, please. And then I just saw a notice on TV, on the news this evening, probably one of the most famous cancer centers, MD Anderson down in Houston, has said that they are no longer going to accept Medicare. So, oh wow. So Butch Graves has 2 big dogs. I have 3 small Chihuahuas. 3 small Chihuahuas and then 45 ACP. So we'll see how that works. Wow, Utah Mike, what a great thing to do. Test your generators. Forget who I was talking to. Oh, I know who it was. We were at, I attended 5 weeks. I only attended 3 out of the 5. 1 week I was getting Helen at the airport. The other weekend I was in Chicago for a wedding. But we had 5 weeks of training to upgrade my ham license from technician, which is only the Baofeng, right? Only this. This is not my Baofeng. This is a Baofeng, but this is GMRS. Where's my? Oh, there it is. Where's my other radio? There it is. So right now I'm basically limited to VHF, UHF, and then I can get into the 6-meter band, but anyhow, so I'm upgrading. I'm taking that test this coming Saturday. Boy, so you talk about a hectic life. I've got to do lesson plans for 2 hours. One of them includes eschatology. The other one includes the communion of saints. So I've got those 2 hours of classes I'm teaching Sunday. I've got to get my review done for ham general license. What else do I have going on? I teach tomorrow night. I teach getting ahead and just getting by world, trying to help people get out of poverty. I have to do a notary tomorrow. It's crazy life. Maybe things will calm down starting next Saturday. At least after the ham test, hopefully I'll pass it. And then we'll kind of have that taken out of the equation. On Sunday, I'll have my 2 classes taken out of the equation. And then things will kind of calm down. So it's just it's one of those hurry up and wait type lifestyles, if you know what I mean. Okay, let's get into this fantastic book. We've been at this almost 10 minutes. We're not there yet. The Prepper's Workbook. Link to this is down below in the show notes. So if you want to get a copy, and I strongly recommend it. This is a fantastic little book. I love it so far. We're going to do chapter 1, getting started. So it starts off with make a list of your emergency contacts. He's got all the forms in tear out sheets in his book that I strongly recommend you get. I strongly recommend that as you tear these out, put them in cellophane in those sheet protectors and create a 3-ring binder of all of your preparedness plans. Okay. So number 1 is, who are your emergency contacts? At the when I went to flew in and out of Midway, and I checked in to Midway to fly home, and went through TSA, and I got about I'm kind of slow because I walk with a cane. I got about maybe 100, 200 yards away from TSA, and they called my name, and they said, please return back to the TSA security checkpoint. So I did. What was wrong? And what was wrong was that, of course, I had to take this off to get through the TSA checkpoint, and so they found it in the bucket. And the good thing is, I've got, this is normally out in front, I've got my crucifix, then I've got my St. Michael medal, and over here I have my emergency contact information, and this is my what do they call it? Med alert. This is my med alert. So my med alert had my name on it, so they were able to page me and for me to go back and get my my crucifix. So I was very happy about that, because this is a very special crucifix. It also has Saint Benedict on it. So anyhow, I was able to pick that up. But same thing here with my emergency contact information. It has my name, who to call in case of anything happening. So let's say I was involved in an automobile accident. Because I have that med alert on, it has my name, it has all my allergies, it has a link to a website where they can get all of my medical history and everything else, all of my emergency contacts. Just keep those, and it recommends you do that in a piece of paper that you keep in your binder. Then it says to create contact cards. So take a thick sheet of cardstock, cut it into small pieces. Then you can do that with your wallet. You can put your emergency contact information in your wallet. Now, I have purchased with my Med Alert medal, I have an emergency contact card. And so on the back, it does the same thing. It has all of my contact information, who to call, even down to the parish, who my pastor is in my parish. So, just great stuff. So make sure you have that. Make sure you have cards. Make sure you have that general information for every member of your family. If you can, keep a log of medical things that happen to each member of your family. I wish I had a log from my childhood of every time that I broke a bone, all that kinds of information, all the diseases I've been exposed to. Somewhere along the way, I lost my yellow shot record. But we used to have to carry yellow shot records, to show that we'd received all of our yellow fever, all those different shots. And I don't know where that is. Probably somewhere with my passport, wherever that is. Although my passport, I'm sure, is expired. So then it has all these tear out family member information sheets, to include taking a thumbprint, getting some biological DNA information, and keeping that with the sheet of paper, taking a photo of them, keeping a record of what date that photo was made. Then we get into basic emergency supplies, which is on page 22. And typical stuff: water, ways of purifying additional water. Once you go through the water, you have non-perishable foods, can opener, hand can opener, or a P38. There are some people, as you get older, manipulating a P38 or a P51 may be a little bit of a difficult problem for you. So look for the kind where you stab it into the can, and then it has a fulcrum, and you basically lift it so that that knife then cuts the lid up, instead of like a P38 cutting it down. And when you do that, that's going to be more beneficial to you. You have to consider arthritis, things like that set in as you get older. So for sure, make sure you have a way of doing that. If you're going to get a can opener, 2 can openers, one for the regular cans. Number 10 cans have a little bit deeper seat, so you're going to need a more heavy-duty can opener with bigger handles in order to cut that. Almost said a pun unintentionally. Blankets, wool blankets. Get wool. My hair, it's a mess. Get wool blankets if you can. Portable shelter, clothing, heating, flashlights, way to charge your flashlights, batteries. Oh, that's a great question. Can you order some? You can, let alone prepper. That's a fantastic question. Why don't you? Although when you have business cards, I used to make business cards when I had my store, sold quite a bit of them. But the bad thing about business cards is they want a minimum quantity of like 250 or 500. So great idea. I would say there are some, and the store I owned was called Postal Annex, and it's part of Annex Brands. So if you have something like a Postal Annex close to you, they have some of them have machines that can do I think it's 20 business cards minimum order. So you can have those printed on one sheet of paper, and then they cut them out for you. And that's a great idea. But laminate them, okay? Get those laminated. For example, I carry my ham license in my, So I carry my ham license in my wallet, and I have it laminated. So that's, and then my fishing license and all those other kinds of things. My hunting license, my shopping lists. I keep my shopping list. I cut up 3x5 cards and use those for my shopping list when I go out for my weekly pantry hauls and things like that. Fleece blankets are fantastic to have, but they're usually fleece throws instead of blankets. That's what I find. So yeah, those there's a lot of them, and they're not that expensive during the holiday season. Waterproof paper is a great idea. I think that was Foxtrot that said that originally. You can get, they have Write in the Rain notepads I know they have them at Academy. I've been tempted to get them. They're little spiral notebook pads with you rip out pages, and then they have Write in the Rain pens. And so what you can do is you can write on that piece of paper, and then if it gets wet, the ink does not, mess up like normal, like most of my stuff will do. Because I use gel pens, and when I write things in gel pen, quite often they'll smear. So I'm a member of CORAC, and so here's all of our frequencies that we listen to on a regular basis. And notice how if you're not careful, your gel pen smears if you don't let it dry long enough. So that's one of the problems with using those. Let me see here. What else? Oil carriers. Oh, I won an auction on eBay. So I'm getting a 1979 white gas pump pressure 2-burner Coleman stove. And they notified me today I won the auction, and it shipped today. So I can't wait to see that. That reminds me of my 1960s Boy Scouts days, and the pump white gas burnt stoves. And so, yeah, that's great. I love that. Pocket knife, multi-tool in your pocket, and then carrying a larger one, such as a machete, hand tools, solar system, solar cell phone. Great list of supplies. Strongly recommend that you get it. Then he goes into section 1.3, Home Sweet Home, organizing your home. So he has all these pages of things to fill out. Where's your bank? What's your account number? This is I was thinking about this earlier today after having read this earlier. Well, it wasn't today. Earlier, I was reading it, and I thought, Helen takes care of most of our banking stuff. And for example, we just sold 2 of our stocks, and so those checks came in, and we put those over into our American Express account. But all of that information, all of our banking information, all of our stock information, all of everything is on Helen's iPad. I have no idea what the account numbers are, how to access them, code words, or anything else. And then I have some things over here on this computer that she doesn't know how to access. I've got to find a way to create a book or something so that if something happens to me, she knows how to access everything on my computer. Likewise, I need to have access to everything on her computer because we're at that age now. I've outlived the average lifespan of a soldier, so I have to be concerned about that. Let me see here. Let me catch up. Yes, I used my mouse. I'm sorry. Don't know why it does that. I'm going to try it again. We'll see what happens. So Kaylin says she has a white gas Coleman stove as well. Yeah, Utah Mike, that's a fantastic thing. That's what we need to do, and then print it out, and both of us have it. No, actually, Holly, the dogs are in the bedroom with Helen right now. She keeps them in there with her, and I get a night without any animals because for some reason, the biggest of the three sleeps right here underneath this armpit and their body along my left side. The middle-sized one sleeps with along my hip, and then the smallest one down at my left-hand side, left foot. So just I get tonight. I don't have any dogs. Tuesday night, I let her stay in there. We close the door. Then I'll never go into the bedroom. I'll just sleep on the couch tonight. No dogs. Isn't that great? Don't tell them I said that though. Okay. Okay. Back to the book. Vital locations outside of your house. Know those. Well, so before that, then once you put a map of your house, draw a diagram of your house, gives you keys on how to do things, how to mark where things are, shows you where is your gas cutoff, where's your electrical cutoff, where's your sewer cutoff. We had a discussion in a prepper group I belong to, and the discussion, I'm kind of the poop guy. I'm always concerned. One of my biggest fears is how we're going to handle sewage in a post-apocalyptic world. I think that's going to be one of the dread things that we're going to have to deal with. And oh gosh, yeah, wow, shenanigans. Great group. Bring back some memories. Mama told me not to come. Yeah. But anyhow, I'm afraid of poop, from the neighborhood. And so we were talking about automatic pressure valves and backflowing of sewage into the house and all this kinds of stuff. And so that's always a concern of mine. And so the plumber in our group said that most of the houses in this area have been built after the code was established that you have to have a pressure backflow valve on your sewage system, so that once you get backflow from the septic system or sewage system into that pipe, that once it reaches 15 pounds per square inch, then it automatically seals and that does not come back into your house. So you don't have spray on the ceiling or anything like that. Hello, Mother Earth Garden Club. Welcome. Good evening. So that's one of my concerns. But where is that valve? Okay. Where's my gas shutoff valve? I hope everybody ordered. We talked about it last week. I hope everybody ordered a non-conductive gas shutoff valve wrench. And the one that I put in the show notes last week, I'll put it again this week. It also has a tool on it. It's one big wrench. It has a tool on one end where it's going to help you with your water main. Now, here's the problem. Typically, when people want to shut off their water mains, it's going to be when there's a freeze. Well, when there's a freeze, that water main is frozen. So you're going to need leverage. Just that little bitty thing is not going to be easy to turn. You're going to need leverage like a bigger wrench, like the one that I'll put in the show notes tonight. So that wrench is good for both your gas line as well as for your water line. If it is for your gas line, do not use a conductive wrench or anything that can cause a spark when you're around a potential gas leak. Hello, Gil. Welcome. That was a great live you had on your Homestead channel this evening about whether or not to can or dehydrate. I wanted to put in a smart crack about get a freeze dryer, but I figured, I'm not going to be a smart guy. There's enough of those whippersnappers out there that I didn't need to do that. So Holly, check with your if you have a plumber, just call him and ask him. Tell him when your house was built and ask him what the possibility is of having a sewer backflow valve in your sewer line, and you're concerned about backflow of sewage. See what they have to say. Suze Orman does have one. We ordered one. $25. It's a big, almost like a briefcase, and it has different size packets for different things. And there's a list in here of the documents that you might want to keep. Financial information, utility information, loans, all kinds of things. Then you want to make sure you have where all those cutoffs are for your house outside. Chances are you won't have access to your your transformer up on the pole behind your house, but identify where your main shutoff valve is for your electrical coming into the house from that transformer. So you will have a master panel, and that could be indoors, it can be outdoors, and it could be both. But just identify where that master panel is so you can cut off your electricity if necessary. Let me see. And then it talks about vital locations outside your home. And then it tells you to paste the map of your neighborhood into the book, and identify key things that are around you. Where's the closest fire hydrant? Where's the most likely place that they're going to come in and harm you or harass you? Are there any exposed areas? Do you have any bad neighbors? Do you have any great neighbors? Hello, John's Life. Johnny, good evening. Welcome. That's a new name. So happy to see you. Curb key by the door for water shut off. Master panel is pretty quick to find if you know what you're looking for. So that, remember, thank you for that recommendation. Thank you for that comment. That is outstanding. What we want to do is we want to go out and find them now instead of having to look for them in an emergency situation. Same thing with using your thing. Okay. You want to learn that now, because trying to find out how to get a good sight picture when you're under stress is not the right time to learn how to use that. Same thing with this. Okay. There's a big difference between this one, GMRS. You turn it on, it's got 22 channels. You pick one of the channels, you can talk right off the bat. Okay. This one, on the other hand, most people call ham. To a ham, this is only part of ham. This is the VHF, UHF ham. This one, you have to program it. So you have to know the transmit frequency, the offset, which is the receive frequency. You have to know the tone. You have to know everything else to plug it in to access that repeater. Both of these have pretty much the same range, about 3 to 5 miles, unless you're on top of a mountain. If you're on top of a mountain trying to reach somebody that's out there on the flat earth somewhere out there, you can potentially get up to 30 miles. I doubt it, but I can with this one. I have a better antenna. And you want to probably have up to 8 watts on that. But anyhow, you don't know that unless you practice with them. I was talking to a friend whose UV5R was still in the box. And I said, have you programmed it yet? He didn't know you had to program it. He thought it was just like this one, the UV15 Pro. So this one, I turn it on. We've got a net going tonight.
Channel mode.
There is a net going tonight. I turned this one off because this is the newbie net every Monday night on our
Channel mode. RKK, this is KJ5FOX.
So this is a newbie net that happens on our repeater every Monday night at 8 o'clock. So that competes with us. So I turn off my radios when we do the live. There we go. Yeah, I turn my radios off while we're on the live. I did order a loop direction finding antenna. So that's coming in tomorrow. I'm excited. I'll show you that when it comes in. Let me see what else here. Okay, threats around you. Gosh, who would have ever thought that Asheville, North Carolina would have had the problems that they have? The mudslides, the rain, the tornadoes, everything all combined into one. Take a look at your, what is the most common natural threat that you're going to be exposed to? You can also be exposed to some man-made threats, like just maybe a mile from here, due southeast. It might be due south. There's a major gas line, natural gas pipeline. Then I've got some major transmission lines. Now, transmission lines are 72,000 kilovolts, so 72 megavolts, and they're about half a mile that way. And so those things can cause some major problems. Those transmission lines, if they break, they can cause a fire big time. But anyhow, so those are some of the things you might want to look at. I am right off the Balcones fault. The fault line itself is dormant, but that doesn't mean it might not wake up, right? I'm on top of a hill. So I thought I was safe from rain and mudslides and everything else until Asheville, North Carolina. They had major mudslides, and people on top of the hill were all of a sudden ended up at the bottom of the hill. We don't have that much topsoil here where I am in Texas, maybe an inch to 2 inches. We're pretty much on top of solid rock, and that's why we don't dig basements or anything. So that's not a threat. However, the strongest tornado ever to hit Texas came straight down through Gerald, which is just north of us, came down, and then it broke into 3 up in Georgetown. One line came down I-35, straight down I-35, and ended up, I was working at Dell at the time in Round Rock, and one went over by our house, which is just west of I-35, just west of I-35, Brushy Creek. And then one ended up dissipating before it got, I believe it was to Georgetown. But anyhow, that was an F5 tornado when it was before it broke into 3. And no, I know where the other one went over to 183 and 620. There was an Albertsons there, and it was an F2 or an F3 when it hit and tore up the Albertsons. And the Albertsons was the manager was credited. He was given a medal because he got all of the customers into the meat locker. And so that was the only thing that was left of the Albertsons after the tornado hit was the meat locker. So he had all of his customers in there. And, so that's something. Yeah. And then Mother Earth Nurse News says she has a train track. That's something to take into consideration. Petroleum products, chemicals, all kinds of different things that are transported by train. If there were to be a derailment, think of what that could do is if you are upwind or downwind. If you're downwind from it, if it's upwind from you. Earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, flooding, winter storms. We've had 2 here. We've had 2 what we call snowmageddons or ice-mageddons, 2 years apart. Here in Central Texas, I mean, this week, starting yesterday, we had 88 degrees. We did have a 100-degree day last week. A week ago, today was 101 degrees here in the Austin area. And so, I mean, for us to have snow and ice, that is really unique. And so it has shut the city down twice. I remember in 1997, we had an ice storm that hit the first week of February, shut the city down. Then the last week of February, we had 3 days over 100 degrees. So, I mean, Texas weather, if you don't like it, just wait a day. It'll change for sure. Johnny says that George is the same way in Lower Appalachia. Digging the grave for my boxer was a lot of rock busting. Yes, absolutely. And I'm sorry for the loss of your boxer. Our animals, our pets are just like family members. So Johnny says he's pretty far from any other threat other than the CDC vault getting compromised. then there's no polite words for how bad it'll get here. That's absolutely correct. Yeah, the 2020 August derecho, and I shredded a lot. The F5 that hit Gerald, I mean, it flayed animals, livestock on the ground. It drove a piece of straw into a tree. It was some weird stuff, and it actually dug up one tornado shelter, and the 3 people that were in it didn't last. Yeah, see, and so we have it so seldom, and we've had 3 in the past 27 years, and so it happens so seldom here. We don't have any equipment for when it does happen. Whereas those of you up in northern latitudes who expect it on a regular basis have the equipment to remove them, mitigate them, treat them, whatever. In Germany, gosh, they get a lot of snow, but they know how to handle it. And it comes every year. They know how to take care of it. They have the equipment. People are sane, know how to do that. So, it's just totally different atmosphere. Oh, wow. You're absolutely right. So some of the wild predatory animals, especially getting out. I saw a video today of a hunter in a tree stand, and a black bear decided to climb the tree and sniff him out. And then it just backed off and went down. So, that wild animals, that's another one, coyotes. We had our alarm go off, probably about 2 weeks ago. And Helen looked at it, and it was actually 2 coyotes on our front porch. So, that's another one of those. And then, of course, animal diseases. So bats carry rabies, as can armadillos, can carry diseases. Tuberculosis, I think, is associated with armadillos, I believe. See, if you fact check me on that, that's fine. But I'm not going to say it's with 100% certainty. I think that's right. But just all kinds of wild animals and the diseases that they bear. One of the things that I was reading history of Houston, and I found out that the original ball field that the Houston Colt 45s played on before the Astrodome was built, that they would have to go out and clear the outfield of rattlesnakes before each game. That rattlesnakes love the outfield, and they would occupy the outfield. And they played on that field for 3 years. Then they built the Astrodome, and then the snake problem went away. But, that's another thing we have around here, snakes, and then, of course, poisonous insects and all those different kinds of things. So make sure you have plans for how you're going to handle that. There we go. That's what it is. Thank you, Little Lone Prepper. I knew it was a disease. Armadillos carry leprosy. Thank you. So the local news put up stuff about bats looking for shelter in buildings. Yes. And we have here in Round Rock, we have 2 bat colonies that live underneath I-35. And so you can actually see the bats when in the evening at dusk will leave these 2 under overpass habitats, and you can see that the bats just kind of blocking what little sunlight there is as they fly away into the night. That picture that of bats going out looking for food for the night. So yeah, we have a very large Mexican snub-nosed bat colony here in Round Rock. So that's something that was kind of neat. Kayleen Fiaxra says that he has lots of cougars. Hey, KP Heathen, welcome. And let me see, what else? Do we have anything else here? And the one thing that there are two emphatic things that he makes about getting prepared for SHTF that he says, and he has them in big boxes with bold letters. One of them is get to know your neighbors. make sure that you remember that we can't do this alone. So getting with your neighbors is going to be critical. Getting them. So what I've done is, I said, hey, neighbors, you need GMRS or FRS radios. And so the difference between GMRS and FRS has interchangeable antennas. Basically, it has a little bit stronger output. Actually, it's twice the output wattage, transmission wattage of an FRS. FRS, the antenna is fixed. You can't change it. Same channels. This is twice the power of an FRS. FRS doesn't require a license. GMRS, send in $35. And that's the test is, can you maneuver through the FCC's website to know where to send in the $35 and fill out the application? That's the hard part. There's an 8-minute video out there on how to get your FCC GMRS license. And I have mine. So my GMRS call sign is WSED 742. My ham call sign is KJ5HEF. So that's pretty much it for chapter 1. Let's see where we are as far as the chat. And if there's anything else, we'll talk next week about chapter 2. Please get this book. It is phenomenal. And I think it was like $12, $18, somewhere around in there. We can check. Chapter 2 is going to be prepare to shelter in place. So we'll talk about sheltering in place. And actually, I think we might be able to do a half hour of shelter in place and a half hour of bugging out. So now I'm old style. No, let me see. I don't know. Shelter in place is really kind of thick. It's 34 pages, as long as tonight's. We'll just do hunker down next week. So I'm kind of old. So I use the hunker down or shelter in place. And so the reason is because that's what we called it. And then Rambo came along, and after the Rambo movie, everybody wanted to bug out, right? Bug, run away, out, run out, run away. And then kind of like this key down here on the bottom right of your keypad, right? There's a question mark, and underneath there's a slash. So that was called a slash or a stroke for hundreds of years. And then we created the backstroke, and people couldn't tell the difference between a stroke and a backstroke, or a slash and a backslash. So now it's a forward slash, so that they can differentiate a forward slash from a backslash, because they can't differentiate a slash from a backslash. So the same thing. They couldn't differentiate hunker down and bug out, so now it's bug out and bug in. So bug in means run away to where you already are. But terminology, it's something else. So let me see here. We got to check out what was said about Jim Croce. He was on his way to our town in San Angelo when he had his airplane wreck. I had his one of his tapes in my pickup. I had a Chevy S10 pickup, and I was driving on Avenue N in San Angelo, driving home after work, and picked up. It was raining cats and dogs, and so I picked up a student that was walking home in the rain, all his books and everything else, and I had Jim Croce in the cassette player in my pickup. He said, "Wow, that guy's good. He's going to make it really big." I said, "No, he's not. He's not here anymore." But yeah, I loved Jim Croce. Okay. So anyhow, my neighbors are fairly friendly. The only problem, one knows better, meth epidemic here in the poorer regions of the U.S. Yes, and that's not just the poorer regions. I think that we have some here in the neighborhood that are that way. Had a nice chat with neighbor Saturday as I was posting signs. He was a great op window over, great OP op window over his garage, and he's on board with using it. Oh, okay. Oh, observation post. Vioxerus. I'm civilianized. I've been OP, observation post. I got it. I have to put my military cap back on. KP Heathen heard that they caught an Asian illegal with a rare form of TB and medical resistance. I have heard of the resistant form of tuberculosis, I have not heard anything about one trying to cross a border. I don't know. Let me see. So the whole Rambo movie was that John Rambo had been discharged. He was a special forces guy who had been a POW. The story behind Rambo kind of reminds me of John, what was his last name? Anyhow, he came to language school while I was there after he got released from the Vietnamese POW camp. He was blind in one eye, deaf in one ear, limped, but I mean, he had like 13 Purple Hearts, the Medal of Honor, and everything else. And John Caviani is his last name. Look up John, Jon Caviani, Cavianni. Great guy. But anyhow, I think the Rambo movie was kind of patterned after him. And so he, the redneck sheriff or chief of police, whatever you want to call him, doesn't like him and tries to take him out of town. Rambo comes back into town. They arrest him. They abuse him. He escapes, tears up the police department, escapes out into the forest, where that's his thing. He's a survivalist. He can survive with just a knife out in nature. And so the sheriff sends in, or the chief of police sends in his entire police department, and half of them get wiped out, trying to bring Rambo back in. So finally they find his battalion commander. The battalion commander gets him to come in. And, so the whole thing is that he has to be talked back in by another guy. So once that movie came out, and I'm going to say that movie probably came out in the early 80s, 82 maybe. That's when I started putting, 1980-ish is when I started putting my bug out bag together. So I'm going to say, that was probably into the 70s, early 80s is when that came out. And all of a sudden, bugging out became a big thing. You saw a lot more people getting into bushcraft. Now, bushcraft was already big. You already had a lot of great guys doing bushcraft at that time, but bushcraft was totally separate from prepping and survivalism. So there was a kind of a rift in the community at that time. Some of us were survivalists, and the survivalists were basically the people who had bomb shelters and were preparing for that. We were going to survive the nuclear holocaust. And the preparedness people who went out into the bug out people. I'm going to say probably about 1990-ish, that changed. It flip-flopped, so that the prepared community were the people who were hunkering down, and the survivalists were the ones who were going out into the forest and everything else, and lone wolves, and they were kind of bushcrafty type people. So that's been the split since about 1990. You're either or. They don't know. Most people won't admit to being both. So I'm primarily a prepared person. I'm more of a hunkered down type of a guy. But my wife and I both have bug out bags. So she thought when we got married in 1984, she knew I had all this canned food and everything else, and so I gave a lot of it to her brother. But anyhow, when we left San Angelo and went to Germany, and then she got to Germany, and the company commander had an inspection of the family, what they called non-combatant evacuation orders, a NEO. And so if she received a NEO order, well, that's kind of tautological. If she received a non-combatant evacuation order, a NEO, then she would have to go down, and we had a 39-passenger bus. We only had 34 soldiers at this intercept site on the East-West German border, but she would have to go down with her bug-out bag, basically, to the bus, and then the bus would take them directly to Rhein-Main Air Base, where they would be flown back to the U.S. Although our bus actually, I think our alternate was to go to the international airport at Hamburg, because we were a lot closer to Hamburg than we were to Rhein-Main. But anyhow, when all of a sudden she had to have a bug out bag, then she decided I wasn't quite that crazy. That that was a legitimate thing, and the Army required it of all family that was in Europe during that time frame. Let me see. So John's life. Johnny says, I've got 2 kits, one for short range heavy fight and a lightweight scout kit. Western G46-6 shark knife, 1911 Glenfield Model 60 with some speed tubes for the light kit. I love the 1911. I qualified, of course, as an officer. I qualified with the 1911 most of the time. I loved it almost as much as the M16. I thought that that was one of the better things that I've ever seen the Army do. When we switched over from the M14 to the M16, I was a very, very, very happy camper. We could carry more ammo. It didn't have quite the kick. It wasn't as heavy. The M16 was a lot lighter. I mean, there were just so many advantages to the M16. And for those of you who aren't aware, there's a big difference between the military M16 and the civilian version of it. There's a selector switch that you operate with your thumb. So in the civilian version, all you have is semi-automatic and safe. Those are the only 2 options you have. With the military version, you have semi, burst, full, and safe. So burst is 3-round burst. So you put that on that and you pull the trigger once, you get 3 rounds come out. Full auto, as long as you have the trigger depressed, then it's going to keep on throwing pew-pews out there. So, there's a big difference between those 2. So when you talk about the military, the civilians not having military weapons, they don't, okay? All they have is semi-auto. They can't do the burst. They can't do the full auto. But I love the 1911. That's a great piece of kit. That's why I'm afraid of this election. I think half the country is going to be up in arms regardless of who wins. Drinking beer on. Let me see if there's anything else here. Can't get out of the city to a place I can practice bushcraft unless I got a driver. Yeah, that becomes a problem. I'm trying to organize a foraging class for our preparedness group, and so said, well, why don't we wait until summer? I said, no, people have got to forage both winter and summer, so we're going to try to get that put together here in the very, very near future, and. But that's a consideration. Is that some people don't have transportation. Some people, and our group covers a 7-county area too. So, it's not the whole concept is that we're training people to be leaders so that they can go home and organize their community. Something, Pete. I've got to do that. I've got to get up there. We've got to go out to lunch again. That was quite the experience. You've got a great place. We got to see what we can do up there. Maybe even just pop off a couple. Oh wow! Look at this. So I've got basically the original 1911. But I looked the last time I qualified. I hit the target 65 times out of 50 shots. Now the MP in the next lane over from me failed. He didn't get his mandatory number of rounds on his target, but I had 15 extra on mine, so I got expert with my pistol. So don't know how many of those were actually mine. Might not have been that many, but anyhow. So that's where we are. Let me see if there's any more questions. Please don't forget, I've only had Kaylin has been the only person. Thank you for that, Kaylin. I got one more response from my Facebook group today, but I've only had 2 responses to my invitation to Tom. Probably 2 weeks from tonight, either 2 weeks from tonight or the week of Thanksgiving. I have a friend who is a nuclear physicist who worked at the Los Alamos laboratory. And so he has agreed to come on, and within the scope of what he's allowed to discuss, he is willing to discuss nuclear warfare, the effects of a nuclear bomb, nuclear radiation, difference between a ground burst and air burst, where fallout is, what you can do to clean water, all those different kinds of questions. Hello, Murphy. Welcome. Good evening. So he's ready to answer all those questions. All you have to do is send me an email with your questions so that I can give it to him ahead of time, because I don't want to embarrass him and say, hey, what about this? And then he says, I'm sorry, I can't discuss that. It's classified. We want to avoid that publicly. So I want to give him the questions ahead of time so that we don't put him in that kind of a situation. So if you would please email me your questions. Kaylin, thank you. So far, you were the only one from this group to do that. I appreciate that. What I would also like is I have not yet gotten a single response on which would be best for you, Monday the 11th or Monday the 25th. So please let me know that as well. Okay, let me see where we are. We're at 56 minutes, so we're doing great. Okay, what else can I give you? Oh, gosh. I'm reading this book right now. Phenomenal, absolutely great. Recommend it. It's not something we want to do for a nonfiction book club, but it gives you a great idea of what's going on. Some of the other books that I'm reading, where are they? Gosh, but I had them in here. I may have left them in the other room. Yep, I left them in the other room. I'm reading Al Qaeda 2.0, Tribes, and I got one more. I forget the name of it. But kind of, I break among all three of them. And I'm trying to get this finished, get my general class license. I'm debating whether I want to get a Yaesu FT891 transceiver or an ICOM 9300. So those are the two radios I'm looking at getting. Unfortunately, they're both over $1,000. So probably have to put those on some sort of a payment plan. Oh, I'm sure I would. I'm sure I would. Anything to help an old man. Okay, so Triple G is saying he prefers the 25th. Oh gosh, we got 2 votes for the 25th. Okay, great. Yeah, and so yesterday at RCIA, I taught an hour for RCIA yesterday. And another guy, maybe I can get him on too. He was a nuclear submarine commander. His name is Earl. Retired as a captain in the Navy. So a captain in the Navy is equal to a bird colonel in the Army. And but gosh, so he and I talk a lot together. I just totally admire and respect this guy. And so anyhow, we were talking, and Helen came up to me afterwards. She says, how do you feel when you're around Earl? And I said, gosh, I feel totally incapable of talking at his level. I mean, this guy is genius material. He's just, wow. I'm just always totally in awe of him. And maybe someday, it's hard to get him to talk. He doesn't talk that much. But, I mean, this guy his brain is a computer. And he can, unbelievable. And a great guy too. So maybe I can talk him into coming on, maybe with Tom. Maybe we can get the aspect of a nuclear bomb designer and a nuclear bomb releaser in the sense of a submersible ballistic missile, submarine launched ballistic missile. Then, maybe I could get the two of them on at the same time. Wouldn't that be great? Tammy, I bought 3 books so I can study up to find out what kind of questions to ask. I think I know a lot about nuclear warfare, but I always feel inadequate when I'm talking to somebody in their specialty and just in awe. And so sometimes I am so much in awe that I forget to ask questions. I just sit there with my jaw dropped and my eyes wide open and trying to absorb what they have to say. And so, yeah, so I need a script. So that's where you come in handy. Just anything you want to ask on a script, and then I can ask that, and that would be fantastic. So Kaylin says, flip a coin, heads Yesu, tails the ICOM 9300. Look him up. Look him up on Amazon. ICOM 9300 or Yesu 691. Those are my two choices that I'm looking at. But anyhow, so that's pretty much it. Let me get over here. Putting this board up tonight, I usually keep it over there so I can do my pantry haul videos. And so I put it up here, knocked off my carbon monoxide detector, my Geiger counter, and my radio. And oh gosh, talk about a mess. Had it knocked them behind this Ekbank. So this is all one big piece. This bench is all one big L. I had to pull it out to get behind so I could get the stuff that fell on the floor. It was crazy. But, life has its challenges. Okay, chapter 6 of the book of Numbers, verses 24, 25, 26. And gosh, my eyes are getting bad enough to where I need my reading glasses. So this is how you shall bless them. Say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. So I pray for peace in the world. I pray for everybody's safety, regardless of which side you're on. War is a terrible thing. We want to avoid it as much as possible. One of the things that we need to remember is that we're all in this together. And that's how I end my nights, is asking you to remember that. But, we say that love is wishing the good of the other. And that's what we were taught, is that, that we are to be instruments of love. We are to wish the good of the other. And so we need to do that amongst ourselves. The political divide, it's okay to disagree politically. It's not okay to hate the other person because they believe what they believe. We've gotten to a point where it's too contentious. We need to step back and just say, hey, I asked a guy a religious question on another channel, and he's been emailing me ever since. I didn't ask him the question to debate. I asked him the question to understand where he's coming from. I just want to understand, why do you say what you say? And so that's what we need to do, is try to understand where the other person's coming from so that we can see where they're coming from, respect where they're coming from, and wish them well in what they believe. So that's all we want to do, is wish the other person well. So remember that we are all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Please continue to be kind, polite, and respectful to each other. Try to understand where the other person's coming from. Seek to love him, wish him well instead of hatred. And then that's the only way we're going to get through this, is together. Take care, everybody. Have a nice evening, and I will see you a week from tonight. Bye-bye.